Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. First a protest, but later a celebration. People held signs on street corners in downtown Tyler today after a custody hearing for dogs was settled behind closed doors. The 60 animals in question were seized from this alleged dogfighting ring north of Tyler earlier this month. Today, the Smith County Animal Shelter got legal custody of these dogs. As KLTV7's Lauren Tier reports, the protesters celebrated this decision, but they still have concerns about what comes next.
These dogs are now officially Smith County property, and the scene down the street from the courthouse annex was proof they have a community in their corner. According to Civil District Attorney Thomas Wilson, all parties came to an agreement outside of the public eye.
The owners of the dogs agreed to divest ownership of those animals and allow the state or the county to take ownership or possession of those dogs.
He says the decision came less than an hour before the hearing was originally scheduled, leaving some, including Skylar Clark, who drove from Marshall, frustrated.
We stayed up to about 2 o'clock in the morning making signs and drove an hour and a half over here just for it to be canceled again. And we just kind of want to know why there wasn't anything told to the public or anybody that this was being canceled or becoming a private hearing or whatever was decided.
With the signed order from Judge Choice, the animals are officially Smith County property, and the civil side of the case is complete. Animal rescue volunteer Dina Carroll says she will continue to drive from Jefferson to support the animals once the criminal charges against Carrie and Michael Jones are brought to court.
I like to say there's no bad dogs, there's simply bad owners.
Her biggest concern now is how the dogs will be assessed for aggressive behavior. She worries some might have to be euthanized. Clark has the same fear.
I personally hope that all the dogs get a fighting chance.
As an abuse survivor herself,
I was given a second chance, and nobody judged me based on the things that I had been through, and I don't think that we should be judging the animals. It's the same thing, it's the same situation, just a different species.
Lauren Tier, KLTV 7 News.
And no word yet on if or when any of the criminal proceedings will happen. Tonight, the accused brothers remain in the Smith County Jail with bonds totaling over $1 million.